Welcome back to the channel, where we dive deep into the lives of history's greatest thinkers. Today's story is about Adam Smith, the quiet Scottish philosopher whose ideas still shape the modern world. Known as the father of economics, Smith gave us the invisible hand, a phrase that reshaped how we think about wealth and society. But his story is bigger than one concept. It's about curiosity, teaching, and a vision that changed human history. Adam Smith was born in 1,723 inches, the small Scottish town of Kirkcaldy, overlooking the cold waters of the North Sea. Life there revolved around fishing and small-scale trade, an early window into the world of commerce that he would later analyze so brilliantly. His father, also named Adam Smith, died before his birth, leaving his mother, Margaret Douglas, to raise him. She devoted her life to her son's education, and Smith remained deeply attached to her throughout his life. As a child, Smith was different. He loved books more than games, often spending hours observing craftsmen and shopkeepers at work. These early fascinations gave him a keen eye for labor and productivity long before he had the words to explain them. At just 14 years old, Smith entered the University of Glasgow. There, he studied under Francis Hutcheson, a passionate teacher who believed liberty and morality were essential to human happiness. Hutcheson's lectures inspired Smith not only to think, but to communicate ideas in ways that connected with ordinary people, something Smith carried into his own teaching style. He later studied at Oxford, but unlike Glasgow, Oxford felt stagnant and lifeless. Smith found the rigid curriculum uninspiring and later criticized the lack of intellectual energy there. Yet, his time at Oxford taught him independence of thought. Back in Scotland, Smith gave public lectures in Edinburgh. His ability to simplify complex ideas drew large audiences. He spoke about justice, law, and society in a way that ordinary merchants and workers could understand. In 1751, Smith became a professor at the University of Glasgow, teaching logic and then moral philosophy. His classroom became a training ground for future leaders, and his students praised his sharp mind and approachable style. His first great book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, was published in 1759. In it, he argued that morality comes not just from rules or reason, but from sympathy, our ability to imagine ourselves in another person's situation. This was revolutionary, because it suggested that society is bound together by invisible threads of empathy, not just by law or force. It made Smith famous across Europe and placed him among the key voices of the Scottish Enlightenment. His reputation earned him a prestigious role as tutor to the young Duke of Buccleuch. This allowed him to travel across Europe, meeting thinkers and observing different economies firsthand. In France, Smith encountered the physiocrats, who argued that agriculture was the foundation of all wealth. While he disagreed, he valued their systematic approach to economics, which sharpened his own ideas. He also met Voltaire and other great Enlightenment figures, whose focus on reason, liberty, and human progress left a lasting impression. These experiences gave Smith an international perspective that few of his peers had. After returning to Scotland, Smith withdrew into a period of deep study and writing. He worked for more than 10 years on his masterpiece, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. Published in 1776, the same year the United States declared independence, the book marked the birth of modern economics. Its central message was clear. The true wealth of a nation lies not in gold or treasure, but in its productivity. Smith's famous pin factory example illustrated this point perfectly. When workers specialized in one task, productivity soared compared to each worker trying to make a pin alone. This insight revolutionized how people viewed labor. He argued that division of labor didn't just make factories efficient, it also transformed entire societies. It multiplied wealth, created new industries, and allowed nations to progress at speeds unimaginable before. For Smith, the key to prosperity was unlocking human potential through cooperation and specialization. He also introduced his most iconic idea, the invisible hand. Smith showed that when individuals pursue their own interests, a farmer selling grain, a brewer making beer, a merchant trading goods, they unintentionally contribute to the greater prosperity of society. This challenged centuries of thought that believed strong government control was the only path to order. Smith argued instead that under fair rules and justice, markets could balance themselves, creating growth without constant interference. Yet, contrary to how he is sometimes portrayed, Smith did not advocate for a world without government. He believed the state had essential duties to build infrastructure, support education, defend the nation, and provide justice. This balance between freedom and structure made his work practical and realistic. He believed people should be free to innovate, but society also needed safeguards so that progress benefited everyone, not just the wealthy. The wealth of nations quickly spread across Europe. Leaders and merchants treated it like a guidebook for prosperity, and universities began teaching it as the foundation of a new science, economics. In Britain, Smith's ideas influenced trade reforms, including moves toward freer commerce and away from restrictive mercantilist policies. These changes helped fuel the nation's industrial rise. Across the Atlantic, America's founding fathers also read Smith. His arguments about free trade and the dangers of monopoly resonated with their vision of a new republic, influencing policies that shaped early American economics. Despite his enormous influence, Smith himself lived modestly. He returned to Edinburgh, where he accepted a role as Commissioner of Customs. There, he applied his theories in practice, ensuring taxes were fair and trade was efficient. His personal life remained quiet. Friends described him as shy, deeply thoughtful, and sometimes absent-minded, but always kind-hearted. He never married, dedicating himself entirely to study, teaching, and service to his community. As Adam Smith once wrote, "It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest." And that concludes our journey into the life of Adam Smith. If this story inspired you, make sure to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to our channel, because here we bring history's greatest minds to life.